Let's go. The boy in white might just be one of the most mysterious creatures in the entire From series, showing up at just the right moments, giving hints to characters he personally favors, and also walking side by side with Victor, keeping him alive for decades in that city we know as dangerous, especially for a defenseless child. But who could the boy in white really be? Could he be a benevolent entity, someone who truly tries to maintain order within the city of From by helping the residents he believes could be the saviors of it all? Or maybe he's actually the evil entity, based on a character from the series Lost, which was created by the same directors as From. And maybe he's just manipulating the game so that they think he's a good kid who really wants to free the children. And that's one of the biggest mysteries in From. And people are always asking me to talk about it here because the boy in white really is full of mysteries. And that's what I'm going to discuss in today's video, the boy in white and who he might be. Because there are actually 3 theories about him. Whether he's good, evil, or just a part of that whole ecosystem that is the town of From. And I'm going to talk about all of that in today's video. So without further ado, roll the intro. Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on the channel. I'm Jeff, and today is another day for us to talk about our favorite series here on the channel. The one we have more videos about than anyone else, because we talk a lot about From. I know you guys love it, and I haven't been talking about it as much lately. But that's because I've been making other types of videos too, about other series. But I still make sure to bring you From content on weekends and on Wednesdays. So today, as you know, we're going to talk about the boy in white, probably one of the most enigmatic characters. I went after a lot of information and theories to write this script for you, so I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead and leave your like, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and if you enjoy From content. And now, let's get to the first theory about who the boy in white really is. Let's start with the side of the light, right? A theory that most of us probably bought into throughout all 3 seasons, at least at the beginning, is that the boy in white is a force for good, maybe a silent guardian, trying against all odds to help the residents escape from the terror that is the town. And maybe, to be fair, this show gives us plenty of reasons to believe that, right? First, and most obviously, his appearances are selective. He doesn't just show up for any character in the series. He handpicks who he talks to, and his choices always mean something. He appears to Ethan, a child with an unusual sensitivity to the mysteries of that town. He also appears to Victor, right? The original survivor. The guy who carries decades of trauma and knowledge about the town. And he also appears to Sarah, the woman tormented by voices. Maybe because he sees her as a key piece on the cosmic chessboard that is the town of From. And this selectiveness maybe suggests that he has a plan. He's not just wandering around the town. He's recruiting or at least guiding those he thinks can make a difference and resist the evil that dominates that whole place, which is Fromville. The big comparison that a lot of fans end up making, and it might fit perfectly here, is with the series Lost, which, not by chance, has the same producers that I've always mentioned to you here. The boy in white might be like Jacob, but from. And in Lost, Jacob was the immortal protector of the island, always looking for a successor, someone worthy of carrying the burden of protecting that place from all evil. And if we maybe apply that logic to From, the boy in white could be doing the same thing as Jacob. He sees Ethan there. He sees in Ethan and maybe in Victor potential candidates to take on the role of the city's guardian. He tests them, guides them, gives them fragments and also information, not because he can solve everything for them, but because he needs them to learn on their own and become stronger. Strong enough maybe to get rid of all the evil that lies ahead in the city. Let's look at the facts from the series. He already saved Ethan at the beginning of the series. He also guided Victor throughout his entire life therein From, showing him the paths and also the secrets that kept Victor alive for decades. And his words, even if mysterious, often carry a truth. He tells Victor that the answers to the end are at the beginning. He talks about how it all started with the children and what they did to them, Right, telling that whole story we already know. And a crucial piece of information, a key piece of the puzzle that no one else had, was this whole story that he had already told there. One of the most popular theories going around in the forums is that he himself is the spirit, maybe the first child victim of that whole place who died in Fromville and ended up staying there as a ghost and guardian, right, of that place. His mission might be to fight against the entity or the curse that killed him, trying to save all the new residents from meeting the same fate as the old residents, which we already know is either becoming monsters or ending up dying inside the city. That would explain why he never seems to age. Victor himself noticed that he stayed the same for more than 40 years, although some new clues have started to suggest that maybe this could be changing for the first time in the city. He might be the lost innocence of that whole place, of that city, fighting against the darkness, right? He even tries to stop Victor from knocking down the bottle tree, insisting to Victor that it's important and that they need to learn things on their own, like we saw more or less in episode 7 of the 3rd season. And that's not really the attitude of a villain, but rather of a mentor who knows, you know, that if he just hands over the answers, it won't lead anyone to victory, like what happened with Christopher back when Victor was still a child. In this view, every action he takes, no matter how strange it seems, is a calculated step toward a greater good. I think that's the most classic theory, right? The one everyone knows about the boy in white. Now let's talk about another theory. Let's flip the coin, right? What if all of this is actually just a facade and the masterful performance of a sadistic manipulator? What if the guardian angel there, the boy in white, is actually a wolf in sheep's clothing? The theory that the boy in white is the real villain in From is just as, or maybe even more, convincing than the other one, and the evidence is downright chilling. Let's start with his demeanor. Remember the first time Victor saw him, right after that whole massacre that killed everyone, including Victor's supposed mother and sister? So, while little Victor is there alone and traumatized in the middle of all that carnage, the boy in white shows up, and what does he do? He smiled and waved, a smile right in the middle of pure horror. He was smiling there like nothing had happened. That's not really the behavior of a good entity, right? Like we might think he is. It's the behavior of someone who's enjoying the suffering or maybe even planned the whole thing. And that creepy smile of his is one of the biggest red flags in the series and maybe the foundation of this whole theory that he's actually the villain, right? Let's also take a look at the help he gives people, right? Let's see it from a different perspective. Does he really help? Or is he just moving the pieces on the board to make the game, let's say, more interesting for himself? Think about it. He guides Boyd and Sarah to a tree where they enter a portal. And what comes out of that? Boyd ends up trapped in a well with a dying old man who ends up infecting Boyd with blood worms, unleashing a new kind of horror in the town. The cicadas we saw in the 2nd season. Was that really help? Or maybe a very well-planned trap set by him, huh? He seems to be playing a game where the sacrifice of the townspeople is an acceptable cost, or maybe even a desired one. And what about the lighthouse scene, right? He lures Tabitha to the top using the voices of the children as bait, where Tabitha ends up climbing up there, desperate to save the kids she thinks might be trapped at the top of the lighthouse. And what does he do? Well, he faces her, says he's sorry, and ends up pushing her, saying it's the only way to get what he wants, right? And after that, as we know, she wakes up in the real world, but the act itself is extremely violent and manipulative. One theory is that maybe he does this precisely to stop her from freeing the children trapped in the tower. But why, right? Because maybe he's the jailer, right? The guard of that tower. He's the one responsible for keeping the children locked up, and he manipulates everyone so that everybody thinks he's actually trying to help and save people. Maybe he wants to keep everyone trapped there and from, so to speak, and freeing the children, as we know, might break the whole spell, right? This cycle, and sending Tabitha out might be, let's say, the lesser evil to make sure his whole plan of keeping the children locked up stays intact. And that maybe brings us back to Sarah's message at the beginning, where it says, "Kill the boy." Maybe everyone, including Sarah, thought it was about killing Ethan. But what if the voices were actually referring to killing the boy in white, right? Could it be that they were actually trying to warn her about the real danger in the town? And what if the boy who needed to be eliminated wasn't Ethan, but the boy in white? That ends up changing the whole context of the series. But in this case, she ended up failing because she misunderstood that message, right? Her antagonist could be the entity from the forest that Sarah calls. That thing, which we saw in previous seasons, may be suggesting a duality like the man in black and Jacob from Lost, right? Two entities from opposite sides, and in this scenario, maybe he would be the man in black, the personification of evil, manipulating minds and orchestrating events for his own amusement, or to control that whole place for twisted reasons we still don't understand, right? Maybe every bit of help is just another move in his game to keep things entertaining for himself. And he's not a savior. Maybe he's just someone manipulating the residents of From. Maybe they're just, let's say, pawns in his whole plan, right? Now, let's go. So far we've seen the theory of two extreme sides, right? The savior and the villain. But what if it's not so black and white after all? And what if the boy in white is actually something more complex, more bizarre, let's say, something that even challenges our habit of wanting to put everything into boxes of good and evil? This is where we come up with the truly brilliant theories. Let's put it that way, because one of the most fascinating ideas is that the boy in white isn't an entity, so to speak, but rather a creation of the town itself, a physical manifestation of Frumble's rules or consciousness. His clothes, which look like something from the 50s or 60s, match the whole aesthetic of the place. Maybe he's the operating system of the entire town. That might explain why sometimes he helps and sometimes he hinders people inside the town of From. He doesn't act out of morality, but rather according to some internal logic, maybe an algorithm, let's put it that way, that tries to maintain balance or disrupt the cycle of that place. He's not good or evil, he's simply. Yeah, he's like the rules of the game. Another idea along those lines is that maybe he is the key to what the town really is, a creation of a child's imagination. Maybe the boy in white was originally a child trapped in that place who, in his loneliness, ended up imagining the whole town and took refuge there as if it were a prison. And now, as a spirit, maybe he draws people to this place, to this world, perhaps hoping that they can fix everything that ended up broken and set him free along with all the other children. And in this scenario, pushing Tabitha off the lighthouse wasn't an act of malice, but rather maybe a desperate attempt to send a message to the outside world, as we saw her going after Harry, right, and also to seek help from outside that whole system that is Fromville so they could escape. He would be trapped in his own creation. And what did you think about this last theory? That he is actually part of this whole supernatural ecosystem in the town, right? Not just the fight between good and evil as we already know, but a complex balance of various forces. He could maybe even be a spirit of nature there, a creature from another dimension whose motives are impossible to understand, since we humans don't understand so many things, especially when it comes to From, right? There are so many complex things, and his actions that wouldn't be guided by compassion or malice, but by the rules of his own world. But I want to know from you all here, which of these theories do you think makes the most sense? Do you think the boy in white is evil? Is he good? Or is he actually part of the whole ecosystem of the town of From, basically being part of that entire cycle of From itself? I've already shared several theories about this character with you all. I keep insisting that he could really be an evil entity, and that he's manipulating everyone there. In fact, I even think he might be one of the children from Tabitha's first incarnation, who was born back in the 500s, maybe. Let's theorize like that, where the whole ritual began. But what we do know is that he's one of the most, let's say, mysterious entities within the town of From. And I really like talking about him because he's a character that a lot of people are also curious about. Who he is. Comment down below. Who do you think he is? Is he really good? Or is he an entity based on Jacob from the series Lost, like I mentioned to you all? Or do you think he's based on the Man in Black, also from an evil entity? Or do you also think he's part of the ecosystem? I want to hear from you. And don't forget, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new, because you help me out a lot. I'll see you in the next video. I ask that you hype it up if you can, to help the channel grow even more. Thanks, see you.